Before we dive into today's topic, I want to tell you about something that's changed how I approach pigeon health and performance. I run another channel called Pigeon Healthy where I share natural herbal treatment methods that most fanciers have never heard of. We're talking about plants and natural remedies that have powerful healing and performance-enhancing effects on pigeons. Things like specific herb combinations that boost immunity, natural treatments for respiratory diseases, plants that improve digestion and recovery after races, and natural alternatives to chemical medications. We cover pigeon diseases you might be struggling with right now: canker, respiratory infections, coccidiosis, worms, and show you exactly how to treat them using natural methods that actually work. No guessing, no expensive medications with side effects, just proven herbal protocols used by top European lofts. If you're serious about keeping your birds healthy naturally and improving their performance without chemicals, go subscribe to Pigeon Healthy right now. The knowledge that could save you birds, save you money, and give you an edge your competition doesn't have. Now, let's get into today's topic. Your young birds are 28 days old. They've left the nest box. They are flying around inside the young bird loft, gaining strength and coordination. They're eating independently, drinking normally. Feathers are developing well. Everything looks good. You're excited to begin their training. These birds have excellent genetics. You've invested in good breeding pairs. You've raised them carefully. Now it's time to start turning them into racers. You decide today is the day for their first training toss. You catch 6 young birds, place them in a basket, drive 5 kilometers from the loft, and release them. They exit the basket, circle a few times looking confused, then scatter in different directions. You watch them disappear. You drive home and wait. One bird returns after 40 minutes. A second bird arrives 2 hours later. You wait the rest of the day. The other 4 birds never come home. 4 birds lost on their very first training toss. 6 to 7% loss rate. You're devastated. Were those birds defective? Did you just lose 4 potentially excellent racers because they lacked homing instinct? Should you have tested them differently before risking them outside the loft area? The answer is no. Those birds probably weren't defective. You lost them because you made critical mistakes in how you introduced them to flight training. The mistakes weren't obvious to you because you didn't know what correct first flight protocol looks like. You did what seemed logical. Take birds out, release them, let their instinct bring them home. But instinct alone isn't enough for young, inexperienced birds in their first exposure to navigation. They need systematic, careful introduction that builds skills and confidence progressively. This scenario happens constantly. Fanciers lose substantial percentages of young birds in early training because they misunderstand how to introduce birds to flight outside the loft. They think it's simple. Birds want to return home, so releasing them away from home should activate that desire and they'll find their way back. Sometimes this works. Often it doesn't, and the birds lost to improper first flight training are permanently gone, taking their genetics and potential with them. The first 3 flights, the very first times young birds are released and navigate back to the loft from any distance, are absolutely critical. These experiences shape whether birds develop confidence and competence or whether they develop fear and confusion. Get the first 3 flights right, and you establish foundation for successful training and racing. Get them wrong, and you create problems that might never be fully corrected, or you lose birds entirely. Today we're covering the exact protocol for introducing young birds to flight training, day by day for the first critical week. We're covering the 3 most common mistakes that cause early losses and exactly how to avoid them. By the end, you'll know precisely how to start young birds correctly so they develop into confident navigators instead of becoming statistics. Let's start with understanding what's happening developmentally when young birds reach the stage where flight training should begin. Birds are typically ready for initial flight training between 4 and 6 weeks of age depending on development rate. At this age, physical development is largely complete. Flight feathers are grown. Wing muscles have basic strength. Coordination is developing through loft flying. But psychological development is still immature. Young birds at this age are curious but also cautious. They are starting to explore beyond immediate nest area, but they are not yet confident about venturing far from safety. They are learning rapidly through experience, but they don't yet have framework for understanding what's dangerous versus safe. Most importantly, they don't yet have established mental map of their home area. Adult birds that have flown from a loft for months or years know the surrounding landscape intimately. They recognize landmarks from multiple angles and distances. They know which direction is home from various points around the loft. Young birds have none of this. Their entire geographic knowledge is limited to what they can see from the loft during loft flying, maybe a few hundred meters radius at most. When you take a young bird 5 kilometers from home and release it, you're asking it to navigate across entirely unknown territory back to a location it can't see and has no mental map for reaching. Some birds succeed through combination of innate navigation ability, luck, and following other birds. Many don't. They become disoriented, choose wrong directions, and get lost. The correct approach recognizes these developmental realities and builds skills systematically matched to the bird's current capability. You don't skip steps. You don't assume ability that hasn't been demonstrated. You progress carefully, ensuring each step is mastered before adding complexity. Now let's go through the correct first flight protocol day by day. Day 1 through 3. Loft flying only. No baskets. No tosses. Just free voluntary flight around the loft. This seems obvious, but many fanciers rush past this stage or don't implement it properly. Young birds should have access to the trap or landing board once they are flying confidently inside the loft. Open the trap. Let birds exit voluntarily when they are ready. Don't force them out. Don't scare them out. Let curiosity and following behavior draw them outside naturally. The first few times birds exit, they'll typically fly very briefly, maybe just to the roof or to nearby perch, then return inside quickly. This is normal, cautious exploration. Over days, as confidence builds, flight duration and distance increase. Birds start making circuits around the loft, 50 meters, 100 meters, gradually expanding their comfort zone. During this initial loft flying phase, several critical learning processes happen. First, birds learn what home looks like from outside and from various angles and distances. They are building visual memory of the loft's appearance that they'll use later for identification when returning from tosses. Second, birds learn the landmarks around the loft. Trees, buildings, terrain features visible from loft area. These landmarks become reference points in their developing mental map. Third, birds learn trap discipline, how to land on the landing board and enter the trap. This skill seems simple but requires practice. Young birds initially are clumsy at landing and entering. They improve through repetition during loft flying. Fourth, birds build physical conditioning. The repeated short flight strengthen wing muscles and improve coordination. All of this learning is essential foundation for later training tosses. Skipping or rushing this phase creates birds that aren't ready for the challenges of navigating from distance. How long should loft flying phase last before first toss? Minimum 2 weeks of daily loft flying where birds are exiting voluntarily and flying confidently for 15 to 30 minutes per session. Some birds are ready after 2 weeks. Others need 3 or 4 weeks. Don't rush based on calendar. Wait until birds show readiness through their behavior, confident voluntary flying, good trap discipline, increasing flight duration and distance during loft sessions. Day 4. After loft flying is well established, introduce basket training. This is separate from actual tossing. This is familiarization with baskets, so baskets don't create stress when you eventually use them for tosses. Take the basket you will use for training tosses. Place it in the loft or immediately outside the loft where birds can see and investigate it. Leave it there for a day or two. Birds will approach. Look at it. Some might enter it voluntarily out of curiosity. This passive exposure reduces the novelty and potential stress when you actually place birds in baskets. After passive exposure, do active basket training. Catch birds calmly. Place them in the basket. Close it. Wait a few minutes. Then release them right there at the loft. Don't go anywhere. Just basket training. Getting birds accustomed to being caught. Confined briefly, then released. Repeat this 2 or 3 times over 2 days. By the 3rd repetition, birds should show minimal stress when basketed. They've learned that basket doesn't mean danger. It's just temporary confinement followed by release. Critical detail that most fanciers miss. Add familiar loft scent to the basket. Place small piece of cloth from the loft, old feed bag material, with shavings from loft floor, anything that carries the loft's distinctive smell, into each basket compartment. When birds are in the basket, they smell home. This reduces stress during transport and creates positive association with baskets. Jos Thone and other top fanciers always use this technique. Baskets smell like the loft. Birds confined in basket smell familiar, comforting scent rather than strange basket smell. This subtle detail makes substantial difference in how calmly birds handle basketing and transport. Day 5 or 6, weather permitting, execute the first actual training toss. This is the moment everything depends on. The protocol must be exactly right. Distance, 1 kilometer maximum, not 3 kilometers. Not 5 kilometers. 1 kilometer. This is short enough that bird can often see the loft or at least major landmarks from the release point. The navigation challenge is minimal. The goal isn't testing navigation ability. The goal is positive first experience returning from release. Direction. Primary race direction only. If your races come from south, release south of the loft. If races come from north, release north. Don't release in random direction. First toss should be from the direction birds will race from eventually. This starts building the directional learning discussed in previous video. Time, early morning, approximately 7 a.m., weather and season permitting. Early morning provides good light, calm conditions typically, and allows birds full day to return if they are slow. It also helps with sun compass calibration, as discussed previously. Weather, only in perfect conditions. Clear sky, good visibility, light wind, comfortable temperature. No rain, no fog, no strong wind, no extreme heat or cold. First toss must be in easiest possible conditions to maximize success probability. Birds, small group, 4 to 8 birds. Too few and you lose the social facilitation where birds help each other navigate. Too many and you can't observe individual performance. 4 to 8 is ideal. Basket. Use the basket birds are familiarized with during basket training, containing the loft scent material. Drive calmly to the release point. Don't rush. Don't drive aggressively. Minimize transport stress. At release point, open basket and allow bird to exit when ready. Don't force them out. Most will exit within a few seconds to a minute. They circle, getting oriented. You might see them looking around, seeming uncertain. This is normal. Within a few minutes, most birds should choose a direction and depart. Watch which direction they go. Ideally, they head directly toward home. Sometimes they head in wrong direction initially, then correct. Sometimes they circle extensively before departing. Note this behavior. It gives you information about each bird's navigation ability. Return to loft and observe. Most birds from a 1 kilometer toss should return within 10 to 20 minutes. Some might take 30 to 60 minutes if they navigated indirectly or stopped to rest. This is acceptable on first toss. When birds arrive, observe trap behavior. Do they land and enter immediately? Good sign. Do they land and hesitate, walking around before entering? Less good but acceptable on first toss. Do they land on roof and sit there, or fly away and circle again? Concerning. Indicates weak loft attachment or trap discipline. After first toss, provide recovery protocol even though distance was short. Electrolyte water, light feed, rest. Positive experience after returning reinforces that returning home is good. Jos Thone's quote, "A bird that hesitates on its first return will always doubt home," reflects the psychological importance of first toss experience. If a bird's first navigation experience is confusing, stressful, or creates uncertainty about home location, that doubt can persist. The bird might always be slightly less confident, slightly more likely to hesitate or land on wrong roofs. First toss success creates confidence. First toss difficulty or failure creates doubt. Day 7 or 8, second training toss. Similar protocol to first toss but with slight progression. Distance can increase to 1.5 or 2 kilometers if first toss went perfectly. If first toss had problems, any bird that was slow or showed difficulty, repeat at 1 kilometer. Don't progress birds that struggled. Only progress birds that showed competence. Same direction as first toss. Same early morning timing. Same perfect weather. Build success and confidence through repetition before adding difficulty. Day 10 to 12, third training toss. Distance can increase to 2 to 3 kilometers for birds that excelled in first 2 tosses. Continue same direction, same timing, same weather selection. By third toss, birds should be showing clear improvement in return speed and trap discipline. They are learning. Navigation is becoming familiar. After 3 successful tosses, you can begin more progressive training as discussed in previous navigation training video. But these first 3 tosses are special. They are foundation. They must be perfect. Now let's discuss the 3 critical mistakes that cause most early training losses. Mistake 1. Tossing too far on first or early tosses. This is by far the most common mistake. Fanciers release young birds 5, 10, even 15 kilometers on first toss thinking, if they're good birds, they'll make it back. If they can't make it from this distance, they're not worth keeping. This logic is backwards and destructive. Navigation ability develops through progressive learning. A bird that would become excellent navigator with proper progressive training can get lost and die if you start with distance that exceeds its current undeveloped capability. You're not testing quality. You're testing luck. Birds that succeed were lucky, got favorable wind, followed other birds, stumbled upon correct direction. Birds that failed weren't necessarily poor quality. They just didn't get lucky. Starting with very short tosses, 1 kilometer, isn't coddling weak birds. It's building foundation in strong birds. Even genetically superior navigators benefit from progressive introduction. The only birds that don't need careful progression are random flukes that succeed despite poor training, and those flukes don't represent reliable navigation ability. How to avoid this mistake? First toss 1 kilometer maximum. Second toss 1.5 to 2 kilometers. Third toss 2 to 3 kilometers. Only progress distance after birds demonstrate success at current distance. If birds struggle, repeat at same distance until they succeed consistently before increasing. Progressive distance increase based on demonstrated competence, not based on calendar or hope. Mistake 2. Tossing in poor weather on first or early tosses. Another extremely common mistake. Fanciers are eager to train. They have limited time. The weather isn't perfect, but it's not terrible. Maybe overcast with light wind. Maybe threatening rain, but not raining yet. They decide to toss anyway. Young birds on first tosses need perfect conditions. They are learning fundamental navigation. Poor weather adds stress and difficulty that can create confusion or fear. A bird that would navigate successfully in clear conditions might become disoriented in rain or heavy overcast on its very first toss when it has no prior experience to fall back on. Whether that's acceptable for experienced birds, light rain, moderate wind, overcast is too challenging for young birds on first tosses. You need clear sky, good visibility, light wind, comfortable temperature. How to avoid this mistake? Check weather forecasts carefully before planning first tosses. If conditions aren't perfect, postpone the toss. Wait for the right day. First tosses are too important to rush in suboptimal conditions. You're not on race schedule. You can wait for perfect weather. If you arrive at release point and conditions have deteriorated since you left home, fog moved in, wind picked up, return home without releasing birds. Better to waste a trip than to lose bird to preventable weather difficulty. Mistake 3. Using new or unfamiliar baskets with no familiar scent. Most fanciers don't think about baskets as a psychological factor. A basket is just a container for transport. But to birds, especially young inexperienced birds, basket creates stress if they're unfamiliar or smell wrong. New baskets smell like plastic or wood or whatever material they're made from. They smell foreign. Young bird placed in new basket experiences strange confinement in strange-smelling environment. This creates stress. Stressed birds don't think clearly or navigate well. Using basket that smells like home through lofts and material placed inside creates familiarity. Bird is confined but smells a comforting familiar scent of home. Stress is reduced. When released, bird is calmer and more focused on navigating home. How to avoid this mistake? Familiarize bird with baskets before using them for tosses. Let baskets sit in loft for days so birds see them and investigate them. Do basket training where birds are placed in baskets and immediately released at the loft. Add lofts and material, old cloth, bedding, feed bag material to basket compartments before every toss. These small details create big difference in bird stress levels and navigation success. These 3 mistakes, too far too soon, poor weather, unfamiliar baskets, account for majority of early training losses. Avoid them and you'll dramatically reduce losses while building confident navigators. Now let's discuss some additional considerations and variations. Question: should you train young birds alone or in groups? Groups are generally better for young birds. Social facilitation helps. Birds watch and follow each other. A bird that's uncertain about direction might follow a more confident bird and succeed where it would have failed alone. Groups of 4 to 8 birds work well. Larger groups can work but make individual observation harder. Question: what if 1 or 2 birds in a group don't return from first toss while others do? Those birds are likely lost permanently. Don't wait days hoping they'll return. Birds that get lost on first 1 kilometer toss in perfect conditions are showing serious navigation problems or they encountered accident like hope predation. Make note of their parentage. If multiple birds from same parents fail early training, those parents might not produce reliable navigators, and you should reconsider breeding from them. Question: should you include older experienced birds in young birds' first tosses to guide them? This can help but isn't necessary. If you have reliable older birds, including 1 or 2 in young bird tosses provides leadership and reduces young birds' anxiety. But don't depend on this. Young birds should be able to navigate even without guides. Guides are helpful insurance, not requirement. Question: what if weather prevents training for weeks after birds are ready to start? This is frustrating but not catastrophic. Keep birds in good condition through loft flying. When weather finally allows training, start with the same careful protocol, very short toss in perfect conditions. Birds might be slightly older, but the same progression applies. Question: can you train young birds during molt? Generally avoid serious training during heavy molt. Molt is metabolically demanding. Combining molt stress with training stress can overload young birds. If molt is light and birds seem energetic, light training is acceptable. If molt is heavy, maintain loft flying only and wait until molt is mostly complete before resuming progressive training tosses. Now let's discuss measuring success of first flight training. The indicators are return rate, return speed, and behavior quality. Return rate from first 3 tosses should be 95% or higher. If you're losing more than 5% of birds in first 3 tosses from 1 to 3 kilometers in perfect conditions, something is wrong. Either birds aren't ready for training, protocol isn't being implemented correctly, or you have environmental factors like heavy halt predation making training unsafe. Investigate and adjust. Return speed should improve across the 3 tosses. First toss might have return times of 20 to 60 minutes from 1 kilometer. Second toss from 1.5 to 2 kilometers should show faster times relative to distance, better navigation efficiency. Third toss should show further improvement. Birds are learning and getting more efficient. Behavior quality means trap discipline and confidence. Birds should show progressively better trap entry, less hesitation, more direct landing and entry. They should show calmer demeanor when basketed and transported. They should appear confident during loft flying and handling. These behavioral indicators reflect developing confidence and competence. If you see these positive indicators, your training protocol is working. If you see poor indicators, high losses, slow returns, poor trap discipline, anxious behavior, adjust the protocol. Maybe slow down progression. Maybe increase loft flying before tosses. Maybe improve basket familiarization. Something needs modification. Now let's discuss the championship perspective. Top fanciers are extraordinarily careful with young birds' first flight experiences. They understand these early experiences shape everything that follows. Jos Thone famously trained young birds with extreme patience. He didn't rush. He gave bird weeks of loft flying before first toss. His first tosses were very short in perfect conditions. He progressed slowly based on birds' demonstrated readiness. His training losses were minimal because his patience and systematic approach prevented the mistakes that caused losses. Louis van der Velde similarly emphasized perfect conditions and short distances for early training. He wouldn't toss young birds in anything less than ideal weather. He started at 1 kilometer or less. He built foundation carefully before asking birds to handle difficulty. These championship fanciers could have rushed. They had large numbers of birds and could have accepted losses as inevitable filtering for quality. They didn't. They valued every bird and trained every bird carefully to give it maximum opportunity to develop. This respect for birds and commitment to proper training is part of what made them champions. You can apply the same respect in discipline. You can refuse to rush young birds into difficulty before they are ready. You can implement proper progressive protocol that builds success and confidence. You can avoid the 3 critical mistakes that cause unnecessary losses. The protocol is clear. Weeks of loft flying until birds are confident and showing good trap discipline. Basket familiarization with loft scent material. First toss 1 kilometer in primary race direction in perfect weather at early morning. Second toss slight progression if first succeeded. Third toss continued careful progression. Avoid tossing too far too soon. Avoid poor weather. Avoid unfamiliar baskets. Implement this systematically. Give your young birds a foundation they deserve. Watch them develop into confident navigators that return reliably from training and eventually from races. The first 3 flights determine everything. Get them right and you set birds on path to success. Get them wrong and you lose birds or create doubt that persists forever. Your young birds have potential. Your training determines whether that potential develops or dies in the first critical experiences. Choose careful systematic training. Build confidence and competence. Create navigators that always know the way home because their first flights taught them clearly and positively exactly what home is and how to find it. The 3 mistakes are clear. The correct protocol is clear. The choice is yours. Train right or lose birds are preventable mistakes. Train systematically or gamble with genetics. Train with patience or rush into losses. The champions train right. You can too. Start with the first 3 flights. Get them perfect. Build a foundation that supports everything that follows. That's how you create races from young birds. That's how you minimize losses and maximize development. That's how success begins. First flight training. 3 critical tosses. Perfect execution. Confident navigators. That's the path. Follow it and watch your young bird become the races you hoped they would be.